Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. We got a really good crowd, so we appreciate that. Of course, we're going to talk, tonight's topic is blackfin, but I just wanted to touch on snapper for just a minute because I realized something yesterday that, sometimes you got to admit when you're wrong and stuff, but the fall snapper season, how many people think fall snapper season is state water only? How many people think it's state and federal? You're right. So normally when they give us just state seasons, it will be state waters only. But I actually called and talked to the Marine Patrol yesterday just to clarify it, so I knew that we were giving out correct information at the store. And on both on fish rules and what they told me, it is stated on fish rules that it is state and federal for the fall snapper days. So that's actually a nice little bonus to be able to do it in state and federal water also. Yes, the gentleman here is correct. They may change it tomorrow, but as of today, it is open in both. When we have the days open, it will be open in both state and federal. So that's a nice little bonus.
I still haven't been out yet for fall season.
I don't know. Well, tell us about shark fishing.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I've just been sitting at my house, just taking it easy for a couple of days, just not doing much, fishing off of our dock, our backyard. And for a while, it was an awesome bite where I think we had maybe 3 bulls and 5 slot reds on 8 baits. So I was like, this is awesome. And then I lost 5 hooks in a row. So I was fishing on 15-pound leaders. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I went to the boat, I grabbed 50-pound, and I tied on a hook and threw it back out. And you and I have been debating on what they are, but bull sharks all over LaGrange Bayou up at my house. And whether it's the same one that keeps eating all my hooks, I didn't see him in his mouth, but I was pretty surprised to see all that.
But what that tells you though, if there's all them little baby bull sharks up there, mama's all the way up there too.
Yep. So it's a fun bite. I like catching them, and I probably tag at least one of them and see what happens to it. So if you catch a tag shark, call it in.
I just thought that was a cool little story. Something is different. I've never seen them. I've of course, seen them in the bay a lot, but I've never really seen them that far up in the bay.
I mean, that's the far end of the bay.
But it's what, 25 miles from the pass?
Yeah, 24 around.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yep. Well, blackfins, this is one of me. You see this back in 1992. A lot of people don't believe those 2 fish I caught off the pier. The piers are real strange on blackfins. When I was a kid growing up here, we never caught blackfins from the pier. And then in 1985, we had Hurricane Elena, and something changed, and we started catching blackfins at the pier. And for about 10 years, there was incredible blackfin runs at the pier. And then we had Hurricane Opal in 95, and they kind of got to where we didn't catch. We kind of back to like when I was a kid, where we just caught a few every year at the pier. But they're starting the last few years, all the blackfins that we were catching at the pier during the 80s and 90s time frame. Well, that was a late August, September, October bite. And then just in the past 4 or 5 years, there's been a new blackfin fishery pop up where in January and February off the Navarre Pier and all down there through the Navarre area, the timber holes, there's an incredible blackfin run down there in the wintertime, along with our fall blackfin run here on the beach.
I think last year my first blackfin was late September, and this year my last blackfin was close to the 1st of May.
Yeah.
Which I was pumped. I caught a huge blackfin. I mean, it was like 30 something. I mean, it was a beautiful fish. And then the next fish we caught was a mahi. So I mean, you know how I am about both. Those are my 2 favorite fish. So I was like jumping up and down, and the poor guy on my boat was just kind of throwing up over the side because it was a little rough that day. But I was like, this is the best day ever. And his dad was like, "We're fishing." So,
But I think, is that the one that we won with last year or the year before?
that one was 2 years ago, I think.
I know because we won the Blackfin the last couple of years in the rodeo. 'Cause that was the winner there. Isn't that, I think that's the same fish. I think. I could be wrong.
It was a fun day.
But anyway, four ways to catch, really four ways to do this. There's trolling, there's live baiting, there's chumming, and jigging. And you can take your pick. Eat all of these, and actually there's actually one missing on here, and that's the little run and gun technique. And we'll cover that one also. So there's, I guess chumming and live baiting would actually go together, and then the run and gun fishing would be separate on its own. You want to tell them about your rig?
So the one I use more than anything, the one I've caught almost all my blackfins on, is this combo. I use this combo on my boat. I say this, but then every day I take at least 13 rods on my trips. But I try to keep rods where I can use it for everything. And I use this combo for snappers, groupers, amberjack, and it's pretty light, but I mean, that's my whole thing. Most of you guys know that. But it's, what, a 7 or 6, 6'9", Shimano Terez with an 8,000. I think you have a 10 on yours.
Yep.
I haven't felt the need to go up that heavy on it with some of the size of them, but I think the extra drag and a little extra line capacity does help. But I run on mine, I think this is 40-pound braid to a 60-pound leader. And I say this at the end of every tuna seminar, but most of the most of the tunas that I've caught, the easiest way to do it and save the whole rest of the seminar is basically just go king mackerel fish, but with fluoro instead. So it's basically the exact same as my king mackerel setup or my topwater amberjack, or if I get certain fish chummed up to the surface, it's pretty much the same combo I use for everything. There we go.
That's so much better.
nicer. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
So, give y'all a little tip here. Everybody, we all have people on board some days that they get a little carried away and they want to reel swivels into your tip. Well, I was noticing the other day, we were running offshore and we get to where we're going to fish, and all of a sudden, this rod had a bird and a rig on it we were going to troll with, and I went to pick it up and the rig just basically falls off. And you cannot see or feel in this tip where is bad. But this is 65-pound braid. It needs a new tip. I brought it on purpose just to show y'all how it's something. A lot of times, if you're losing fish and you don't have a reason for it, a lot of times you can't feel it. If you'll get you a piece of really quality toilet paper where you can barely rub it on there, and you'll feel it. It'll grab a hold to that little nick area. You can find it whether it's on one of these guys or a tip. But if y'all know how hard it is to cut 65 braid with a pair of cutters, you see how easy that just broke on me. When that ceramic gets a sharp spot in it, it will nick your fish off right now. Just a little tip to kind of hopefully help some of y'all out. It's mostly your anglers reeling swivels in.
It is, no matter what, every day you tell guys, hey, I know you're going to get excited when that fish comes up, but just slow down. And then you hear, oops, I'm sorry. So
or you hear them go to cast and it goes, Christ. Because they go to throw it out there. But I noticed this one yesterday and I didn't fix it on purpose today so I could bring that in and show y'all that tonight. And my clients yesterday, they all reel on the wrong side, which makes me look like a toddler
Oh,
on
it is on the
riddling
wrong
reel.
side.
Oh, it's Josh.
Ugh.
Oh no.
No.
Me reeling a spinning reel like this, it's like a toddler on riddling. I'm just like,
Mm.
no, that don't work.
And then halfway through the fight, people are like, "Hey, help!" And I'm like,
No, it's one of my clients. You know, where to go catch the blackfins? I mean, yeah, they're most of the time they're relatively somewhat, I think, kind of easy to find. But just like with a lot of the other things, the county has done us a big favor. And I don't have all the ships listed here, but all these big metal ships are going to be holding lots of bait. That's going to be really good areas to go for the blackfins. Even the newer ships, while the newer ones that they put out probably are not going to be holding snappers and groupers and jacks and stuff yet. Even the ones that are only a month or two old will hold plenty of bait. And that's the key to catching tunas, is having a bait supply where you're fishing. And then, and of course, inshore, any of your near shore structure places that are holding bait are most likely going to hold blackfins. But out off, I don't know how well this one really shows up, but this is the southwest edge, and then south edge is actually right up in here. It doesn't show up good on here, and this is Mingo Ridge, but just off of that is the knuckle sitting over here. This is this little drop here where it comes off of this like 180 down to about, the first drop off is down to about 280, and then it falls to about 325. This whole little ridge system right here is an area that as the current comes up out of the canyon there, it comes up and curls off that wall. This is always a good spot that you can come out here and especially chum and live bait for the tunas out there.
and most of these should be on your,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think I got cover trolling first. Birds are your friend just like they are for catching mahis. Birds are great attractors to get the tuna's attention. And running a bird with a little duster rig behind it.
I'll be honest with you, running birds is great for my attention too. Trolling when you, yeah, just kind of looking back like, all right, this is kind of working. It's kind of working.
You've trolled what, 12 minutes this year?
Ugh. I think that's a high. That's a high number. I tried once early. So like I don't like trolling. I don't enjoy it. It's productive for sure. And I tried trolling for blackfin earlier this year. I trolled from one spot to around, and I honestly I started drawing pictures on my Garmin. I just started trying to see what I could draw, and I was like, maybe I'll get a bite. I don't know. First great known spot where I've caught tuna before, nothing. Went to the next spot, I had a couple like little tiny bonita on a cedar plug off behind a bird. Went to the third spot, tried and tried and tried, nothing.
Tried, but he only fit.
No, I legit,
minutes.
I drew pictures on it. I got frustrated. I put my trolling motor down right on the spot. I threw a flat line off the back and I hooked that tuna. Sitting still on the spot, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
But what I do like about trolling is that you can cover more water and more area, and it's great for locating fish. Once I get the tuna located, I'm going to switch to chumming and live bait fishing because I actually think that's more productive. Plus, to me, it's more fun. But the trolling it allows you to cover a lot more water to find the area where the fish are at.
Especially, yeah, that's a good point. Like for us, we have, like that day, I had 3 specific spots that I was like, I want to go to these 3 spots looking for a blackfin. But if I didn't know those 3 spots, you're right. That's a good point.
But lures that will, a bird rigged with a little trolling duster, this particular Yozuri, these little guys here, they're super giant twitch baits like you would use for trout and redfish. These are very good baits for trolling.
That's typically what you show up on my boat with, is one of those, right?
Yeah. Of course, just the regular standard Yozuri crystal minnow. The little gotcha plugs, most people think about these as being for Spanish, but a lot of times the tunas, especially in the fall, right now you're going out there and all the baits we're catching around the pass are pretty good sized cigar minnows and herring. But as we start really moving into October and November timeframe, a lot of those baits, they're all spawning right now. Those baits are going to be real small and they're eating little bitty things. So the little bitty gotcha troll that looks just like a big cedar plug is an excellent option. And that's something that I would run way, 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 way behind the boat. And of course, then your regular cedar plugs, all very good lures for trolling. And that's, so that's trolling with lures. And then let's talk about trolling live baits, just like you would rig a king rig, where this is all made out of 40 or 60 pound stranded wire. We're going to make the same rig, but just out of 60 pound fluorocarbon leader for your tunas. And like Mark said earlier, well, it's just tuna fishing is just king mackerel fishing. He's exactly right. This is the exact way we fish for kings. And you need to have plenty of these rigs tied up, because you're going to lose a bunch of rigs, because the kings are still going to, they don't care if you're fishing for kings or tunas, they're still going to bite it.
And the big tuna from April, I don't remember exactly which day it was. Honestly, the water hit like that perfect. There were mahi in the water too, so like that water hit that perfect temperature. Where I was like, you know what? I think kings are going to be here. And I think Kayla and I went out and had a whole bunch of kings like the day before or something like that. But for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to put fluoro on and just see what happens. I'd rather go through a hook or two and switch to wire, like actually get a bite than wonder if I was missing something. And I'll be damned if I threw this exact setup with, I think, a regular herring right off the back, and it was a tuna. I wasn't expecting it at all. I was like, maybe a bonita, but then 5 minutes into it and the rod tip kind of going the right way. But I'd rather go through a couple hooks.
Well, isn't that too? That was about the same, right in the same time frame, or maybe the same day that the flying fish tried to kill Kayla.
Oh, that was a king mackerel day.
Okay.
I know, and so like every now and then, especially for our social media and videos and stuff, like we try to get these, the moment of the strike. I tell everybody on my charter, like they're looking at it and the rod tip's kind of going like this. I'm like, they're like, is there a fish on? Is there a fish on? I'm like, trust me, you'll know. You'll know. And they're like, well, look at the rod tip. It's kind of going like this. And then that fish hits. And I'm like, they're like, oh, that's what you meant, where it'll take out like all of the line in 20 seconds, especially if we're sitting still over a spot, with just a flat line out. But I was like, we had 5 kings in like 20 minutes. And it was kind of one of those things where you just hook a bait and throw it in and it would bite. So like, let's try to get the strike, and had that in a rod holder sitting there, pitched the bait out by hand. And Kayla and I both had our phones out, just kind of waiting for it. And a flying fish jumped right by. You said later you had water on your sunglasses. And I got it on video, and that flying fish just came by like 3 inches from her face. That flying fish almost hit you in the face. I would have laughed entirely too hard if that actually happened. No, not that bad.
But back to our live bait tuna rig, quality baits for these. We all pretty much know these cigar minnows.
Well, wasn't fluorocarbon invented for tuna fishing?
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, the tuna fishery is where fluorocarbon came about, because tunas have such good eyesight. And for years, I've complained to manufacturers, and they finally started making a freshwater version of fluorocarbon, because what makes fluorocarbon work, it's not that it's invisible, it's that it doesn't refract light so the fish can't see it. If you take a piece of 20-pound mono and go back in our shrimp tanks and lay it in the shrimp tanks, the shrimp will swim up to it and go around it. If you put a piece of 300-pound fluorocarbon in there, I can see the fluorocarbon. The shrimp will run into it. It's because they can't see it. And what makes it work is the same density as salt water. Well, if it's the same density as salt water, it sure ain't the same density as fresh water. They've been selling it to the bass guys for years. But if you go to the river, you know, you'll catch redfish miles up the river, and you'll catch bass miles out into the bay. Because when the tides go in and out, the saltwater underrides the freshwater, and the freshwater runs out into the bay area. Well, if you're going to use it for freshwater, you do have to have a freshwater formula. Now, there are other properties to fluorocarbon. It has a much higher knot strength than mono does, because one of the unique things about it doesn't absorb water like mono, so the knot strength is way better, and its abrasion resistance is better. So those would be good for freshwater, but the clarity of it doesn't really matter.
It is expensive though.
Yeah. But it's, you know,
especially when you're tying on long leaders and wind-ons the way we do. I'll go through an awful lot of fluoro, but it works.
But, you know, and as far as baits, you know, cigar minnows and herring are some of your best baits. And in the fall time, it doesn't seem like something we should be out there tuna fishing with. Live shrimp is an excellent tuna bait. Now, I've cut a bunch of tunas open, and I always look in, I know Mark does this too, I always looks in the bellies of his fish when he's cleaning them to see what they're eating, because of that old fly fish term, match the hatch. It's real important. Well, the tunas are actually eating rock shrimp, or they're red shrimp or rock shrimp, which is not exactly what we sell for freshwater or for bait at the shop, but they're pretty close. There's days when I've caught all my tunas on live shrimp and not caught them on other baits. So excellent tuna bait.
For that, you brought up a good point, and I say this every time and almost every day at the dock. If there's something in that fish's stomach, look at it and see what he's eating, because I think you'll be surprised at especially the size of some of these baits that these fish are eating.
And of course, you know, we were kind of, that picture is kind of a little bit about a sequence there. We were talking about trolling, you know, the cigar minnows and the herring and the little baby hardtails.
This herring doesn't look too healthy.
Those are good trolling baits. The little shrimp, he's kind of mixed in there. Of course, I hope nobody thinks we're not trolling with these. This is when we're live baiting and chumming and chunking for the tunas that we're throwing those out. Just like that, you know, that would, you know, normally when we're fishing for trout and redfish, we got like a little small 1/0 hook. We're still using like a 5/0 size hook in that shrimp. If we don't really, at the shop, we don't separate the big shrimp from the little shrimp. If you come in and say, look, I'm going tuna fishing, better ones if I can, we'll try to look through some and try to pick out a few better ones. But we don't get shrimp by size. We just get whatever God lets them catch that night. And sometimes we got little bitty ones. Sometimes we got giant ones. Sometimes we got medium ones. There's never no rhyme or reason to what we're going to get in tomorrow's delivery. Just like when we're out of the pass, we don't always know what kind of bait we're going to catch there. I know everybody fished lately. I fished yesterday. Oh, you fished, Mark. Did you catch any bait at the pass? Well, he caught bait at the pass. I caught nothing at the pass. I fished by the finger jetty. I fished at the end of the jetty. I fished by the buoys. I had to run offshore a little ways to catch my bait yesterday. No, I caught nothing. So that kind of, you know, the trolling part, you know, let's, you know, we'll talk about, chumming and chunking for the tunas. You know, of course, the same baits that we would use for trolling, plus the shrimp. You know, we talk about using bonita chunks all the time for like triggers and mingos and stuff, but having some of those chunk baits to chum for tuna with works excellent. Cut herring, ballyhoo, anything like that that you can use to chum. The little menhaden that are in the bay in the fall, cast net up a couple buckets of those, take those with you for chum. Those are excellent. Now, we'll tell you, if you're going to do this chumming and chunking thing for the tunas, be prepared. You got to catch a lot of fish someday. To catch 3 or 4 tunas, you may have to catch 25 bonitas, which is good. We need the bonitas for chunk bait anyway. We need them for grouper and snapper baits. But it's not like you're going to go out there and just catch tuna.
You'll have to stick at least 5 or 6 remoras on your friends.
You catch it, you wear it.
That's the rule on the boat. He or she who catches a remora must wear it.
But I love the chunking and chumming thing. We last year we were out there in the rodeo the day we caught our winning fish, and we were sitting there. We were doing some combination bottom fishing and tuna fishing at the same time, and we're throwing some chunk baits out there, and we're throwing a few live baits out, and we'd caught several bonitas, and it all just hadn't seen a tuna all morning.
I have a video of this too,
and it just goes. The water around the boat just erupts.
But if I'm not mistaken, neither of us noticed that until we went back and watched the video. So like we were looking for other fish, and then all of a sudden, and it was rough that day, and a wave came up, and I was like, what is that? And it was the coolest. It was like a wolf pack. There were just it seemed like there were 50 of them in one of the waves, and it was just kind of like black dots all through the wave, and I was like, what in the? I'm looking at it, and the flat line goes, and then it hit. I was like, tuna. So then, everybody on the boat started throwing baits over there. We hooked 6 or 7 of them and lost most of them.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, one hooked, and somebody was fighting it. And on the GoPro video, I didn't notice this until the next day, but there was just a boil of tuna on the water about where this blue boat is. And nobody noticed it because we were all hooked up or trying to do stuff. And then all of a sudden in the video, it's just like a football field of whitewater.
And that one came.
We got one fish in the boat.
But it was the one. And as soon as that one came in the boat, it was like, oh, we can go home now. Because that's the winner. But the tuna fishing thing to me is great because it's easy fishing. So it can be a lot of action, especially when you're catching, kings and bonitas and stuff mixed in,
which are awesome to catch.
Yeah, and there's going to be some snappers come up into your chum stuff. You start chumming and everything will come. The mahis will show up. All kind of things are going to come when you chum.
You're absolutely right, and the bigger snappers too. I think a lot of the bigger fish will come up to the surface and get stuff. I think a lot of times when you're snapper fishing, I know we're not talking about snapper, but you drop down, you get into those little ones, that's fine. But all of my big ones have come higher up in the water column.
I think anytime you're snapper fishing, when you pull up on a spot, the worst thing to do is just drop it all the way to the bottom on your first drop. Drop it down 20 feet and stop and just see if you get a bite. Maybe you're not even marking them up that high. Just drop it 20 feet. You don't get a bite in drop it down to 40 feet, drop it down to 60 feet. But if the bigger ones are up on TV and you drop it down to the bottom and hook a little one and you bring him up, all the other little ones are going to come up with him. And then it's hard to get the big ones to bite because the little ones are just more aggressive.
I had a day where I had 4 guys on my boat and one of the guys caught 7 of the 8 keepers. And I was like, what are you doing that nobody else is? And he was like, we were in 70 feet of water. And he was like, yeah, I drop it down to the bottom and I reel up 25 cranks. I was like, hang on, can you tell me that? Can you tell me that again? I was like, just show me this. And he drops over the side, he hits the bottom, and I was like, okay, and he reels up 25 times. And I was like, oh, and all the snappers were right underneath the boat. So the guys were like, we should all drop and reel up 25 times. I was like, just put him in the water. Take the lead off and just let him go in the water. But it was all the bigger ones.
So this is a little rig that I want y'all to pay attention to. So if we're out there doing the chumming and chunking thing and we're in here fishing in the shallow water, just if I'm trolling, I use a typical stinger rig, just like we would for trolling for kings. But if we're in inshore fish, if we're fishing inside of that 180 foot line or so, typically I'm just fishing a circle hook. But we're fishing up on top and just pitching the live baits out there into the chum. But when you get offshore and I'm fishing those deep ledges out there, you need to have some baits on top, but you need to have some baits down deep too. And I would set up for those deep rigs, I would set up my regular stinger rig, but then to a 3-way swivel, I want at least 25 or 30 feet a leader. So my bait has a lot of room to run and try to escape from the tunas. If you have a little short leader, that bait can't do a whole lot. And a lot of times it won't entice the bite. But having that 25-foot piece between my actual leader and my swivel will get that bait to where he can move a lot. And it's really just like rigging up a snapper or grouper rig. But I would set, if I was out there in 250 feet of water, I'd have one rig on top, I'd have one rig at 75 feet and one rig at 150 feet. And a lot of times that 150-foot rig will get bit. And as you're fighting that fish and it's coming up, that 75-foot rig gets bit. And as you get a fish pretty close to the top rod, the fly line goes off. So that's one to really pay attention to. Doesn't work nearly as good in the shallow water because we're only fishing, if we're out there in state waters, we're definitely in less than 100 feet of water anyway. So your fly line bait will probably get halfway to the bottom sometimes anyway.
This is the pack that I take when I go on other people's boats. It's like everything that I would use in a day, but these. You have that. We use that for.
The gentleman asked what a 3-way swivel is. We might want to just let him pass that around the room so everybody can kind of.
We use that for even for my snapper and grouper setup. I go main line to that.
Yeah, I have
leader.
So normally, if I was fishing for snappers, I would just have my every leader coming off, be 6 or 7 foot long to my hook. Well, on this, I have my regular trolling rig per se, and then I have this real long leader for my 3-way with a snap spool that I can. It's just a way to attach it. I don't think it really matters if you went straight mono, that would be fine. Yes, sir.
No, you don't need the fluoro for all that. And I'll run mine. This is pretty much what I do all the time because I fish state water. And I think the tuna's eye is huge, and they've got great eyesight. And if I'm in 60 to 80 feet of water, they're probably going to see it, or I guess you could say feel the nervous bait or whatever. But all of my tuna have come off of it. Water temperature wise and season wise, I fish state water, so there's for me, it's colder. It's colder water. I think deeper water, there's more of them, and they're hanging out. I don't want to say year round, but for the most part, you have better chances out deep and luckily, and I say this every time too, people can't catch a fish now without posting it on social media. So when you start seeing like the pier catch a tuna and then some kayak guys and then a guy on a paddleboard, you're like, okay, maybe these things are in close now. So I should probably go check my high relief structures in close that have a bunch of bait on them and king mackerel fish, but with fluoro. All right. See you guys next time.
So while you're doing this chumming and chunking thing, there is another, to add into that, you know, tunas are very apt to take the regular jigs that we would jig for snappers and amberjacks and groupers, any of the jigs that we use for that, whether they be the Shimano jigs, the little GI jigs, all of those will work for tunas. I haven't perfected jigging, slow pitch jigging for tunas. I know a lot of the guys do it and are very effective at it. I haven't really got down the right jigging. I have to jig it a little faster for tunas. Have you done much with them?
Agreed. I think it's a fast moving thing, but like you and I have similar opinions on jigging, and whatever works is how you catch them. So I think slow pitch jigging and speed jigging or casting out and retrieving, it's similar, but I think the bites are on things that move fast. Unless if you're in deeper water and you're jigging for tunas, I think that's where I lose most of my jigs. It's a toothy critter.
But adding jigging into your chumming and chunking and live baiting technique will add a lot. I'm gonna disappoint you too. You know they're gonna discontinue that.
The glow or the
The
monarch?
Monarch
One.
going away this year.
We'll have to get them all.
They'll be around till there's probably enough inventory till spring. But
I'm gonna get every one of them.
They are on the discontinued list.
I like that
There's
jig.
going to be a Monarch 2, but I haven't seen a mock-up of it yet. But that one is going away.
I love that jig so much that one day you and I were amberjack fishing, and we were jigging and we were jigging slower, and then you could tell Tim was losing his patience, and all of a sudden his jigging turned into one of these like, all right, let's get out of here. And all of a sudden he hooked up, and I was looking over at him, I'm like, and then I hooked up. You lost your fish. I lost like 150 yards of line. I was like, what just happened? And then I retie. I got another rod down. I retied. I dropped it, and I start jigging on this same jig, and I hook something that doesn't feel right, and I reel it up to the boat. And I remember looking over at the other side of the boat and going, I got someone else's line. I got tangled up. And everybody else, their rods were all in the boat. And I was like, what did I just hook? And I caught my own line, and I pulled my jig back, and I got my jig back. No fish on the end of it, but I still had that jig for like, I don't know, 10 more days until I lost it.
And kind of the last way of catching tunas, this is typically a early morning thing and a late after, first 2 hours of daylight, last 2 hours of daylight. But it's what we call run and gun. But you'll see them out there in the morning, just after the sun's coming up, and the ballyhoos and the cigarmans and the herring along the beaches. This is in real shallow water. A good place to see this happening is like around the Miss Louise tugboat, or down around the Pole Spot, or the Navarre kayak reefs. And you're just going to just see these baits just showering along, the birds working. It's like redfish in the bay, but the baits are just.
And you'll see tunas jumping out of the water.
The tunas are just going. You can see that one there. They're just going. And you need to be ready. I mean, it's just like run as hard as you can get to where the baits are showering. Have somebody ready, because you need to run up, pull the boat out of gear, big old giant popper like that.
And a bigger rod that you can throw a lot farther.
And just as fast as you can pop it and go. You talk about exciting when one of them sucker comes up, just grabs it and jumps 20 feet out of the water. It sounds, when he hits the water and goes back down, it sounds like somebody just flushed a toilet.
We were running back in from a charter, and the nearest, I think it's probably the closest to the pass, Max Reef.
Yeah.
Probably the nearest reef system that Okaloosa County put out and it's the numbers marked in the middle, but it's a big square of stuff around it. I want to say that entire reef system was a boil of blackfins one day. And I was so excited. I mean, maybe I get a little excited on my boat, but I was like, it's charter fishing. It's different than if it was like Mr. October, Mark Luciani, and Tim and Kayla on the boat, or like people who know what they're doing to just grab a rod and just launch it out. But I had some clients, and I was so excited. I was like, just grab any rod, any lure. I don't care if it was a little shrimp or a big plug or anything, but just get it out there. And that's just to show how close they can be to the pass. It was awesome.
Like I say, this is how we use the ones like this. Well, you see how close the condos are. That's right there off the Miss Louise right there. But this is when we were catching them at the pier back in the 80s and 90s there, and we would be standing on the pier in the afternoons and just before dark, and the tuna just come racing, or the bait's just racing to the pier and runs up underneath the pier, and everybody just throw out. I've quite a few days I caught 2 in a day off the pier, and I've had several days that I caught 3 in a time off the pier. But we had days back there in the 80s and 90s where we would catch a couple hundred blackfin.
Bloody Wednesday or whatever.
That was Kobe fishing, but there would be days we would definitely catch well over 100 and is pushing 200 tunas in a day off the pier. And the last few winters, the Navarre Pier, they keep things real close to the vest over there, but from just before Christmas till about the first or second week of February, so on the coldest of mornings, I mean just bitter cold, hard north wind, 30-degree morning, that's when the tunas are at the pier. And they regularly have days that they catch 40, 50 at the pier. The kayak guys go out there to the Navarre kayak reefs. You'll see them up on the if you follow the Facebook page, Plastic Navy of Navarre, I think it is. You'll see the guys out there with their kayaks up on the beach, and they'll have 3 or 4 blackfins apiece just off their kayaks. So that winter, our last seminar of the year this year is going to be winter wahoo and mahi fishing. We're going to do that one in November. The last 5 years, I have a love-hate relationship with the offshore fads. But what they have really shown us is that we have a wahoo dolphin fishery in November through February and well into March, that wahoo dolphin fishery is good, if not considerably better, than the summer wahoo dolphin fishery. That's going to be our last seminar of the year, talking about this winter fishing. It's cold out there then.
We should talk about some of these good bites after they're good.
We've got to do it for 5 years.
Yeah.
But it is a very good fishery. And this tuna thing is the same way. The tunas are good in October, but I'm telling you, most years we catch the winning tunas in October, the last week. We catch tunas all through October, but the colder it gets, the bigger the fish seem to get up on the beach. And the last week is, we won a couple years ago. Mark was captain of the year, and the very next year we were leading to the last day, and Scotty comes in on the boat that we always kind of compete against. He comes in the very last day, second to last boat, weigh in 6:58 that night. He's got 2 tunas that knock us off the board. We got fish that are like 28 and 29 pounds. He comes in, he's got one that's 30 and 31 pounds.
But we're in second place. We'll just put that out there. We still have first. I want to be clear.
Yeah, we have.
But it doesn't matter.
We're gonna have it.
But every picture, I think, except for that one, almost every picture I have everything in my phone separated, and I'm a nerd. Everything's organized a certain way so I can find stuff and do that. But I have all my tuna pictures in one folder, and almost every single tuna picture I'm wearing fit. So for referencing the colder weather.
Mm-hmm. These I mean, when they're just going off like that and they're just tunas everywhere, that's really cool. They normally don't do this. Really, you won't see them, very rare doing this at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If daylight is at 6, this is from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then, sun's setting at 6:30, it's from 4:30 to 6:30.
I should fish earlier.
Yeah,
I don't
you
have
don't
the-
like to get out of bed.
No, so I get up every morning around 3. I'm up early, but it's a long ride for me to go around, and I've got customers on my boat, so it's pretty hard to say, hey, let's go ride all the way across the bay in the dark, when it's October and cold, to go offshore. So for me, I have to fish the nice part of the day. And I think you're right from a theoretical standpoint. Probably personal experience and all the fish you've caught is probably better morning and night, but I don't have that luxury to get to offshore at sunrise. And we've had plenty of
That's when you have to go to
mid-afternoon.
the other methods, whether it's trolling or chunking or jigging or something else. They all work. I mean, we can do those at the other times of the day.
You like that guy. You always have one of him on the boat.
Yep. That's one of the poppers that I like, the switch baits. Of course, the GI jigs are always good for run and gun. Oh, and just plain old, sometimes when they're chasing them schools of bait, a lot of times it is cigar minnows and herring and ballyhoo they're chasing. But sometimes, especially later in the month, as we get in winter, they're a little bitty glass minnows. And just a plain old white jig will get you a bite when nothing else will get you a bite. But just something that you can throw good, ounce and a half, depending on the size of your rod. You don't want it too big. If it gets more than 2.5 inches or so, that's almost too big, because match the hatch or eat little bitty rain minnows, you gotta have a jig that's that size. Forgot about that.
I have a picture somewhere on my phone of his stomach contents of one of these. I'll try to find it afterward. And we cut one open and like just 50 or 100 rain minnows came out. And luckily the jig we were throwing looked identical to it. I mean, everything it was feeding on was little. Or like you said, and I don't know what they are. I need to take a better picture of them. But you said some kind of shrimp earlier. I've had some white little shrimp thing in the stomach of most of my fish.
I've had the kind of they're not royal reds, but some sort of little rock shrimp, real hard that are in their belly.
Because those fish can feed at the bottom if they want, and then cruise around at the surface too. They're awesome fish.
And have any questions about this? Yeah, 1 to 1.5 ounce white jigs. Trolling speed is going to be somewhere in that 4 to 5, maybe up as fast as 6 miles an hour. Okay. Okay. Yeah, X-Raps, Yozuri, crystal minnows, any of those, the little nomad lures. You want to make sure you're using smaller sizes, nothing more than about 6 inches.
I think if you had
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the rainbow one.
Most of them are too big. The smallest size Yozuri Bonita, but that's really a pretty big profile for the tunas. And one of the guys mentioned the Halco, the little Halco tremblers. Those are excellent baits. Give you a secret on that Halco bait. The Halco bait, they all come painted in all these kind of cool colors. Take that Halco bait and sand it off, take all the color off. It's the same color as the chairs that y'all are sitting in. It works really good. Solid white. I'm trying to get them and Yozuri and almost everybody's stuff is most of them have some sort of white underneath. But I like just make us a plain white one. But the Halco one, man, it's just jet white underneath. We do that all the time for spear fishing. So if you are going to run out there and try to do like this early morning or late afternoon tuna thing, just be careful doing that. Where'd my phone go? Oh, it's right here. Dr. Rain just sent me this a minute ago. When was this recently that y'all saw this? Oh, this was yesterday. Because if you're running out there to do the early morning thing, you're going to be running at night. Hello. They found this out there. How far offshore were y'all yesterday?
That'll ruin your day. That'll ruin your day real fast.
So, yep.
Did you catch anything off of it?
And I had a thing yesterday too. It was kind of sporty coming home. I mean, in the morning it was sporty going out, but it wasn't calm in the afternoon coming in. But I was running in yesterday afternoon and I'm paying attention. And I mean, I was on them like that. And I went, by the time I saw these two jet skis, they're about 4 or 5 miles off the pass. There was one right there, one right there, sitting on a black jet ski out there on that water. No flags, no nothing. I come real close to them. They probably were not happy with the weight. But I didn't see, I mean, they're just sitting out there fishing. They were bottom fishing, but I didn't see, I mean, they were so low profile that even when we got right next to them, we'd go over a wave and they would just disappear. I mean, I was like, oh. But yeah, so if you are running out there in the dark, be careful. There is stuff like that happening now.
And also, and sorry, I'm just thinking back on tuna and how I actually go look for them every day. No matter what, I think the advantage is, like bottom fishing, especially, no matter where you are. I think my best kings and mahi probably came off of bottom spots that I wasn't expecting it, but I just happen to have a flat line out. Just always have a flat line off if you can when you're bottom fishing.
Yeah.
But I think so. Bait. What's your favorite blackfin bait?
Talking live bait, my herring is always my #1 favorite. But even over a cigar minnow, I would probably take a live menhaden that was cast netted in the bay. And actually, even above a cigar minnow, it's probably a live pinfish for blackfin. I don't know why blackfins love pinfish.
All right, bait, rods, reels, poppers. They're delicious. What else? You guys have anything?
Yes, sir.
If you ask Tim, I mean, his favorite place is probably catch them off the pier.
Yeah. The Miss, I'll give you the spot, the Miss Louise. Tugboat right there on Crystal Beach Pier. Then I think it's about 65 feet of water, something like that. It's 3/4 of a mile off the beach. You can paddle to it. You see kayaks there all the time.
90. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I had my one favorite place, it's the Navarre Kayak Reefs, because it's such an expansive area that you have to fish. It's a long way from home. I mean, I think it's 19 miles down to the kayak reefs, but yet you're only a mile off the beach, and there's actually 2 other sets of them before you get to Navarre.
There, the snorkel reef. Yeah.
Nope. A lot of times you'll see the run and gun fish up there on as far as those snorkel reefs.
I think 90% of my tuna have been caught within 6 miles of the beach. But that's where I spend all my time.
Yeah. The
Maybe,
question was,
maybe you're getting smarter. Maybe you're getting smarter now.
has it recently become a fishery? It's become, in the last 10 years, it's become a more targeted fish as people have learned to do it. And I would rather eat tuna.
for sure.
To me, tuna and grouper are kind of close in hand. Snapper, I care less about eating a snapper, but tuna and grouper go hand in hand. They're both, I love that.
There's like 4 or 5 fish, like snappers and all that. People are like, why don't you take some of that? And if I try to go home with fish now, Kayla's like, she'll get mad at me. We're pretty sick of eating fish, but tuna, I'll make up rules on the boat. Like, oh, there's a captain's tax on Tuesdays where I have to take a piece of this home. Or I'll tell people like, oh, these taste terrible. You don't want this. You don't want that. I'll take it. You can have these bonita instead. Look how many of those there are. I agree. Well, you let me know when to be there, and I'll be the judge. Yeah, yeah, bring.
Well, I think Kayla's got some goodies to give away up here. If anybody don't have any more questions, next month will be kind of is going to be kind of the random question answer talk, just
It's the
all
rodeo,
things
the rodeo,
Destin
right?
Rodeo.
And the rodeo's coming up quick.
Yep. It'll be about October 3rd, I think, is the next Tuesday. The captain's party is Friday night, the 30th at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Yeah, registration will be open at 8. You can, of course, pre-register at our store. You can do it online for the rodeo. If you want to register at the captain's meeting, registration opens at 4. Captain's meeting at 5. There's food, drinks, pick up your bucket, big party on the dock. Definitely September 30th at AJ's. Huh? Is it 29th? Okay, 29th.
What do you have garment? Who do you anything you need? Just ask. See, we're lucky enough to spend a lot of time on different boats. I'm a massive Garmin fan.
Me too.
I think it's a one. There, there's there's a I have pictures of because I help a lot of people out figuring some of this stuff out. I've got pictures of all my settings and how I use stuff and all that little stuff. So if you have any questions like that, I'm happy to talk to you about all that stuff. I love those. Yes, I've I do. Don't- but no, there's a couple things on my boat that if I didn't have my trolling motor, it would be hard to fish and my chart plotters. So between that's coming from my old boat that had different electronics that I used first. And I guess like once you get with a brand and you're comfortable with it, you don't want to change. But yeah, and I had a different manufacturer and I switched to Garmin's for a reason. And I mean, I've with trolling motor and my chart plotters. Although I did lose some electronics on my boat once and had to go fishing blind. So I don't think I'm only saying this because Tim and I had a debate once that there's only like a handful of people who could go out and catch fish without electronics, and he was like, I don't think you could do it. So and I did. So now every time I can, I throw that back in there. Like, yeah, guess what I did, Tim? No.
That's
Oh, so we lost my trolling motor on the ride home. Yes, sir. No,
you got to
all
get there.
ass.
You got to get there quick,
Yeah,
or they'll be gone.
and it's one of those things like
You get one throw.
yeah, they're gone.
Don't mess it up.
Yeah, because this one's heavy, and I can throw it from here to the front door probably. Um, so that's my go-to. Not when I'm specifically looking for tuna. Normally, I have one of these rain minnows on, um, because if whatever else it is will probably eat that. If it's a tuna that eats that, I probably hope I have a little bigger hook on it. I think that 4/0's not beefy enough for a tuna, so if we know that's the thing, I'll probably change the hook out before I throw it.
Kayla, what you got to give away?
You need a microphone, Kayla?
Here. Here you go.
We do have a bunch of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Get hold this here. You want to go with the GI jig first?
Sure, yeah, let's go with the jigs.
Been talking these things up, so let's see who's going to get tested out.
And I call them bunkers, but you guys call them LYs or pogies or Menhaden. He just came out with these and carved them. They're curved, so they wobble really good. These things work awesome vertical jigging because they jump through the water funny. If you lift it or reel, it'll jerk funny. But this is we cast these a lot at most of these fish too. Yep.
Yeah.
Same guy. He just came out with these a couple days ago. I don't even know if he sells them on his website yet, but
You guys
they're pretty cool. You know.
see who the first winner is. It's going to be John Cooper. Well, congratulations over there.
You are not allowed to roll with them. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Up next, how about one of the pelagic buffs there? Where you were talking about mahi, so there you go. This is going to be Joe Fisher. That'll be some good luck for you.
Yep.
All right. Next, let's go with one of these black. Actually, I'll let you guys pick out which color you want. A legendary hat here. So the first winner for the hat is going to be Ela Paragonus. Paragonus.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Congratulations. You can pick which one of these pretty colors you want.
Uh-oh.
Perfect.
That's a snake.
You're welcome. All right, next, let's go with one of these legendary shirts here. We have a navy one, and this is going to go to Mike Rain. Is it Rain? Maybe? Oh, perfect.
Extra large. You can grow into that.
We'll work it out with
what
you.
size? It's a large.
You are that.
Yeah. Perfect.
She'll get to match me.
You got it.
Yes.
You should wear that with those pants. Yeah, so I would take her out with me for emergencies, but it's too bright on the boat, reflecting off the white. Yeah.
All right. Next up, do you want to do another GI Jig?
Yeah, whatever.
Let's go for Tim Tran. Congratulations.
They clapped for you.
I know.
Yeah.
A celebrity over here. Let's do another pelagic buff. This is going to be for Steve Lubis. Congratulations. That'll look good with that shirt too. All right. So next we'll do another legendary hat. You guys get your pick. It's going to be Ken Gayser. Gayser, maybe? I'm sorry if I am killing these last names, guys. All right, so now maybe let's do a shirt and a hat together. How about that? That seems good to me. That's a big prize. That's gonna go to Liz Cameron.
All right.
There you go. You're welcome. All right, let's do another GI Jig. This is going to be for Scott Stevenson, maybe? Is it Scott? Okay, perfect.
I should put my name in there. put my name in there. Next one is Mark. I'm like, oh, cool.
Fields.
Hey.
There you go. Congratulations. All right. One more GI Jig. This is going to Aaron Henricks.
And then is that an umbrella?
This is, guys, these are the highly sought after legendary umbrellas. They're huge and they're amazing, and they've saved me like 10 times this week. So this is going to go to Angie Powell. Well, congratulations, everybody. I'm going to hand this back over to Mark. Oh, sorry, Tim.
So I guess the rodeo starts in a couple weeks. You talked about the party and all that.
Yep.
But you guys, is everybody fishing it on the rodeo?
As in details, as in
It's awesome. So the weigh-in docks are at AJ's and on the harbor, and like if you pull up at 5 o'clock, you're gonna be waiting in line with all the other boats. But when you pull up and there's like 3 stories of drunk tourists there, and you learn real fast if you know how to drive a boat. But
the rodeo is absolutely awesome to be at every day.
It's awesome. Even for us, when I wasn't fishing last year, I went down and hung out on the docks with Mark.
And Mark, stand up. This is Mark Luciani. He runs the Fishing Factor, but Mark is our chairman of the Destin Rodeo this year. So if y'all have any questions afterwards, come up and talk to Mark. Mark will talk to you now.
We have a lot. We have a boat to give away this year. We're selling raffle tickets. You can go to the website. You can pick up a copy of the rodeo book at the rodeo at Half Hitch. Fresh Market's got them. There's a number of stores that have them. And every night during Saturday and Sunday on the rodeo, we're giving away staycations. We're giving away fishing packages. Big John has donated an 8-hour trip. That's in one of the packages. Raffle tickets are $10, 6 for $50. So
and you can win a boat.
You can win a boat. It's your boat.
Yeah. No,
But
it's all
the rodeo is a nonprofit, so in order to put this on every year, we had to do something for this is the 75th annual rodeo this year. So we're trying to make it a really big deal. So we're gonna have a lot of cool things going on down at the docks.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. DestinFishingRodeo.org.
.org.
DestinFishingRodeo.org. If you're on Facebook, you can look us up on Facebook as well.
If you're coming in to weigh your fish in, you can also, when you're coming in to weigh your fish in, you can go to the website, the DestinRodeo.org, and there's a live awards list. So when you pull up to the dock, you can know beforehand. You're sitting out there in the harbor, and it'll show you it's live to within probably about 10 minutes of weigh-ins or so. And you can be looking in your cooler. Okay, the daily on the king mackerel right now is 12 pounds. I got a 20-pounder. I need to pull up. Oh, wait, I've only got a 15-pounder, but the daily's already at 25. But there's a live leaderboard on the website, which is really, really good info.
We had a daily once of a mahi. Nobody had weighed in a mahi. Our mahi was like this big.
Well, we appreciate everybody coming out
like,
tonight. And of course, next month we'll be talking about the rodeo.
Point. And even the Miss Destin is they have he's